Welcome back, YouTubers, to another budget bike and car review. This time we're going to talk about a bike that kind of falls into line with the old muscle bikes that I was trying to get back into, seeing what they're like in the real world now compared to what they were like when I was a kid, basically, because I passed my test back in 1985, 86, I think, something like that, and I used to have a GS1000S. I had a GP-Z1100, all the old bikes then, which have obviously gone down by the wayside now. But they did, around about the 2000s, they did start kind of making these retro look bikes, including this one here, the Kawasaki ZRX1200R, which is the Eddie Lawson replica, but not, because as soon as I mentioned Eddie Lawson replica rather on the forum for the ZRX, everyone said they didn't actually make one. It's just that it's been known by folklore, as it were, to be that. So I don't know what the relationship is to that, but they do call this, people in the know, the Eddie Lawson replica ZRX1200. Just to clear that up, because I was a bit confused. Beautiful green, Kawasaki green colour scheme, as you can see, this time with the purple and white. They do come with a black and white as well, I believe, and I've seen one which looks almost like a blue and white as well. I wasn't sure about the purple, to be honest, at first, but it's kind of growing on me, to be fair. And as I said, I wanted to try one of these out because following on from the XJR1300 Yamaha that I had before, which if you haven't seen that review, go and check it out on my videos. That's quite an interesting one as well. I didn't want to get too despondent with these kind of retro look bikes, as it were, and this one, I mean, I've watched a lot of videos on this type of style of bike, and this one always comes tops, even in the Men and Motors and the MCN reviews. This is the biggest bang for your buck kind of styly. This is the one they rate the highest. So I wanted to try it. There's a couple more I do want to try. I want to try the CB1300, the Honda, and I also want to try the Suzuki GSX1400. But they're both a little bit out of my price range, truth be told, because the XJR was, I mean, you can pick them up between 2 and 3 grand. These are the same kind of thing. You can pick these up as cheap as 3 grand. I've seen them up for 8, 9, 10 grand, you know, in absolutely concourse condition with every nut and bolt restoration kind of thing on it. This isn't that, basically. If you saw the Speed Triple 1050 review I did get rid of that because it was causing me a few headaches and I didn't really want to get into it. I did take it to a couple of bike shops. The clicking on the front was purely the pads. I mean, if you've watched this video, this makes sense to you. The clicking on the front wheel was purely the pads. They were a little bit too thick. Maybe they used cheaper pads from China. You know, it happens. And they were a little bit too fat. And the guys, both different garages local to me, said, look, don't worry about it. It's not dangerous. It will get better as the pads wear down. And then there was the fueling issue, which was getting on my tits a little bit. And there was something else I can't remember now anyway. And I put it up for sale, just kind of a tentative thing. And this guy came along called Lee, lovely guy. He's had a few of these, and he picked this one up locally to him because it was for sale, and he loves them. But then, for whatever reason, he looked at my Speed Triple and decided he wanted to swap. And I thought, well, okay, that falls in line with what I'm doing with this whole retro thing. So he came down from Weston-super-Mare, which isn't that far from me, 120 miles, something like that, and we had a nice little deal. I took this, he took mine, knowing full well, I mean, full disclosure to him as well on the Speed Triple. Before I gave it to him, I told him everything that was wrong with it before he even got on the bike and came down, because I like to be as honest as I can. You just don't need people ringing you up and saying, Dan, you bastard, you screwed me over on this bike. So everything was revealed to him. When I got this exhaust down here, there's a stock exhaust, and it is black with a silver Yoshimura can at the end. It was a little bit rusty in spots and a little bit faded here and there. I was going to get it all off, have it powder coated, put back on, but then I saw how rusty those bolts are there for the headers, and you just know, getting that radiator off, that's the biggest thing straight away. You've got to get the radiator off, drain it all out, get rid of the hoses, then you've got to take it off, and there is no way you're getting those bolts out of there, or those nuts rather, off of there without snapping a couple of them, and then you've got to redo the bloody holes, and it was just going to be a bit of a nightmare. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try to use some enamel paint, because it's obviously heat resistant, and just do what I can with that. But obviously, as you can see, it's a bit of a tight old squeeze in there, and you would have had to mask everything off really, really well not to get it on all the other bits of the engine. And then someone on the forum suggested this grate polish, basically, for want of a better word. It's used for old fire grates, that kind of stuff, and you just rub it on, leave it for a couple of minutes, and then kind of almost wipe it off and leave a little residue on there. And as you can see, that's come up really nice. I almost like that kind of dark grey, silvery kind of thing that you do get on old fireplaces, you know. Depending on how old you are, you'll know what I mean by that. And it's fine for now, you know. I would like to get it off there and have it powder coated, but there are a million things you could do to this bike to make it absolutely mint condition. And where do you start and where do you stop? You know, these calipers, they're in great nick, but they could do with being taken off, stripped, not repainted necessarily, but a good going over. Same with the radiator shroud here, that's not brilliant. You can see a couple of tiny little bits here. The engine, generally speaking, lovely condition, just like the XJR was, apart from obviously just a little bit here with the old toes going up and down. The heel guards here, again, I could whip these off, I could sand them back, and I could paint them, and I might well do that. These have been powder coated to my mind, because now I've seen some powder coat work done, like I did on the Speed Triple. I can see that's been done, and that's fine, but it wasn't done incredibly well. I would have liked to have seen that chrome, because originally that would have been chrome, if I'm correct in that thinking. Same thing with the rear caliper, that could do with being taken off and, you know, just fettled with, shall we say. You could put new sprockets front and back as well. That would make it look really, really nice. That swing arm, the guy that sold it to me was saying he was thinking about getting that powder coated black and then getting the wheels powder coated gold, the same as the engine. Yeah, interesting concept. I don't think I'd go that far. I might, the problem with all this kind of stuff is you need the tools. You need an ABBA stand to get it up, to get the swing arm off, to send it away, to get it done. You know, I don't have that. An ABBA stand's 100 quid. So then, all right, it may only be 50 quid to actually get it done, but then you've got to spend 100 quid on an ABBA stand with the right connections for this bike for a job you'll only do once. So then you're looking more like closer to 200 quid. Anyway, that's by the by, because I'm not going to do it. Effectively, I'm not going to turn this into a spotless mint example of a ZRX1200R. I think it's incredibly good nick. There's a few things I have done. Just for a change, I've replaced the headlight bulb at the front, which wasn't as easy as you might think it was, because obviously all of this has got to come out. And I didn't like the indicators on the front. The guy had these kind of like, almost like the same size as your finger, like that, sticking out black. Very stealth looking ones. I didn't like it. I didn't think it looked great on the bike, and I already had a set of these little sort of triangular ones here that I put on the Speed Triple, so I basically changed those over. Someone's obviously done the relay because it doesn't flash too fast, but unfortunately I can't get the back ones off. They're just, well, as you can see, they've been on there quite a while. They're LED, I mean they're fine, but it would have been nice to have the matching set throughout, as it were. But I can't do that because I can't get the bloody nuts off, and I can't be bothered to spend too much brain power trying to work all that out. The grab rails also, they're supposed to be black. Somebody's obviously sanded these back and polished them up. I don't mind them, you know. You could argue that they should be black, so why not just spray them? Yeah, but why? I don't need to, you know. I'm not turning this into a concourse example. Little bits like this black panel here on the engine, that needs to come off and be redone as well. But again, I'm not going to do that because I'm not trying to make this a mint example. I think it's pretty bloody good nick as it is, to be fair. There's a couple of obvious bits, as I said, the swing arm and the radiator shrouds. Now, it did have a bar end mirror, and I do mean a singular bar end mirror here. There's a little hole just underneath here where it was sticking up here, so I whipped that off. And I put some more in line with this kind of retro look mirrors on there. They're all right, but they're a bit kind of like, if you want to look at your elbows all day, they're fine. You know, you've got to get out of the way so you can see what's behind you. So they're not ideal, but the original ones for this bike are a fucking fortune, so I'm not going to be going down that road either. I mean, with these bikes, the original indicators would have been nice as well, but again, 40 quid each, so it's like 150 quid. So you're looking probably 200 plus pounds to change it back to the original mirrors and the original indicators. That's too much, in my opinion. Nice little radiator guard there as well. I slapped a little bit of paint on that horn, as you can see, because that was looking a bit rusty. What else? I didn't do a great deal apart from what I've already told you. The other guy put these levers on, these aftermarket shorty levers. I like them, they look quite nice. They go with gold. You put the Renthal bars on there as well, because obviously they're aftermarket bars. 24,000 miles, ish. I say ish because at some point in its life, this bike God only knows why, but someone tried to turn this into a Street Fighter, and they put digital clocks on there. Apparently they never worked. It was only for about a year, looking at the MOTs. So basically, whatever miles was done in that year, you've got to add that to the original clocks, and no one knows what it is. But looking back through the old MOTs, this bike wasn't doing much more than 1,000 miles a year anyway. Let's stand by while a truck comes by. So I would say, I mean, even if you averaged it out at 5,000 miles a year, this will not have done more than, say, 30,000 miles. And considering the bike's a 2001, 19 years old, that's fine. You know, I don't have a problem with that at all. Now then, what else? Not a great deal. I mean, it's going to be a relatively short video just to let you know what I'm up to. Ride-wise, now you're looking at that seat. It's a big old chunk of a seat, and it is quite comfortable, and maybe it's because I don't ride as much as I used to, but I have got a sore ass. I mean, looking at the trip meter, I've done less than 85 miles since this morning, just pootling about, but I do get a bit of a sore ass and a bit of a cramping in the lower back, shall we say. But that, again, that could be my age, it could be the fact that I don't ride like I used to. Now let's get this seat off if we can, and I'll show you something on here I really do like. And that is this huge cavernous space you get down here. There's my pants I just bought, there you go. But massive. I can get my e-cig in there, a bottle of water, a sandwich, a baseball cap, a phone, anything you like, which is a real nice touch, because most modern bikes you couldn't put a fag in there basically. It just, you know, they don't give you any space at all. Bungee cord little bobbins there as well, which is kind of cool. Again, I'm not gonna bother putting a smaller number plate on here. Someone's had a go at a DIY tail tidy here, pretty much like I did on a previous bike, which I can't actually, the Triumph Sprint ST. I did the same thing here. It looks like someone's just literally cut the end off there and moved the number plate up. Fine, no problem at all. Homemade brackets for the indicators, you know, that's fine. I don't have a huge problem with that. Condition of the paintwork is pretty good. I don't have a huge problem with that. There were quite a few, and as you can probably still see here, little scratches all around here from leather jacket, you know, the zips and all the rest of it. I've done what I can for now, and I do have a carbon one to go up here as well, and I had some left over, so I just kind of did these little triple stripes down here, which I thought was quite nice. I do have a yoke protector coming as well in carbon fibre, because as you can see, that's looking a little bit moody, but they have to be special ordered, so that's on its way. And I'd like to get another one of these, because it looks like someone's literally just whipped this off, got some black Amorite, slapped it on all over and bolted it back down again, which, you know, it's not ideal. It'll do a job, but it's not ideal. Anywho, we'll start her up in a minute, because we never do that often enough. I always say I'm going to, and I always forget. Ride-wise though, it's not a bike that you want to ride fast, if that makes any sense. The Speed Triple that I swapped this for was very brutal. You know, it was constantly saying, come on, drive me, you know, ride me harder. It's like a dodgy porn star. And that's one of the reasons I got rid of it, because it was a license losing bike, that Speed Triple 1050. So this was always going to be more to my style. I mean, I've just been for an 81-mile ride, or 83-mile ride rather, and I don't think I got above 50-60 miles an hour all the time. You know, you just sit back, you cruise along, and, you know, let the world waft by, and it was, you know, it was a really pleasant ride up until I got a sore arse, and then I had to get off. But, you know, that's just part of the course, I think. But so a very, very comfortable ride. I mean, I think you could do a lot of miles on this bike, maybe get a gel seat or one of those little weird little pads that just fit over the seat for the time you're on it. I don't know. I mean, I don't do a huge amount of miles, so for me that would be pointless. But if you're thinking of one and you wanted to go touring on it, no problem at all. That'll just sit there at 3,000 revs, 60 miles an hour all day long. This one does need a little bit of mechanicals. After 85 miles that I've done today, I've noticed the clutch is a bit draggy, as in, you know, pulling away in first can be a little bit jolty. Could be an adjustment, not sure about that. It's running a little bit rough as well. Now, I did take the baffle out of the Yoshimura, so it could be that it just needs the baffle back in, but it's a little bit lumpy. But these are carbs after all. There's, you know, a few carbs sitting underneath that tank, so it could be a carb balance needs doing, which, if I decide to keep this, I would probably get the carbs balanced, look into that dragging clutch, and also there's a very, very slight wheel wobble. If you take your hands off the handlebars at about 50 miles an hour, the front starts to wobble a bit, which I've not had before. Now that could be the front tyre not being balanced when it was put on. It could be a top yoke bearing. Not sure. Again, I'd have to give that to somebody else, let them deal with that. But nothing that can't be dealt with relatively cheaply, and then made much better, obviously, afterwards. I do enjoy it. I've had a great deal of fun today, apart from the sore ass. And I love the colour. I love, even parking up. I went to Padstow today, right on the waterfront down there, and parking up. And people that know, they know. They look at this and they think, oh, well, there's a beautiful old Kawasaki. A lot of young guys will look at this and think, what the fuck is that? I've never seen one of those before in my life. But as I said, the men that know, and I do emphasise men that know, they will know about this bike and they will appreciate it for what it is. As I do, and as I'm sure you do. If you're watching this video, you've probably kind of come across this in your search for a video on a ZRX1200R. They do make an S as well, just like the Bandit 1200S and the Bandit 1200R N. Sorry, in that respect. And no, it doesn't look as good, but it might be better for touring, I guess. But this is the one you want. You want it in Kawasaki green. You want it with the Eddie Lawson stripes on it, and you want it without any fairings on, so you can see the beauty of that engine. So anyway, that's it. A 24,000 mile having ish, maybe 26, maybe 29, no real way of knowing. 2001 Kawasaki ZRX1200R, which I picked up last Friday I think it was, and now we're on to a Sunday, so I've had about 8 days. Very much enjoying it. Not decided what I'm going to do with it as yet, because now we're into August. So if you're going to sell a bike, you've only got a window of opportunity of about 6 weeks perhaps left now before we start hitting winter, and then people start losing their enthusiasm about spending X amount of money on a bike. Talking of money, this, well, I mean, as I said, they're becoming collectible now. That's the thing. So you don't want to underprice it, but you don't want to overprice it. I would think an asking price of $34.50, something like that, to take maybe $32.50 as a cash offer, being that it's August. In the winter you might get $29.50, I don't know. But that's what I would value it at, and that's pretty much what it owes me. If you've got any questions, as always, drop it in the comments below and I will do what I can to answer them, because I should have been out on it a few more times by the time this video goes up. By the time this video goes up, I may not even have it anymore. You never know, because if you've ever watched my other videos, I don't tend to keep things for very long. And this is, I've got another 2 videos to put out before this one comes out. So it'll be interesting to see if I've still got this when the video comes out. I'll put it in the title or the info bit of the video if I have still got it, just so you know. Alright, as I said, questions, drop it in the comments. If you've got one of these and you've done any mods to it, as always, I'm always interested to listen to that, or pictures. I mean, you can always send me a message via my YouTube email address as well, which should be in my info and my biopsy thingy. So if you want to show me some pictures of what you've done, there's the other thing as well, because apparently this light has been cut down so it doesn't sit so proud, because apparently it comes out to about there and it's been cut back to fit in there. Don't know how they did it, don't know why they did it, to be honest, but just thought I'd mention that in case you were looking at it thinking, that looks a bit weird, that doesn't look like mine. That's what's happened there. Might make a little bit more sense now. Yeah, it looks alright, I suppose, but without knowing what the other one looked like, it's impossible for me to make a judgment. Anyway, enough waffle. I will see you in the next one. It'll be interesting to see, and like I said, whether I've still got this when you're watching this video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Take care now.